Imagine embarking on an unforgettable journey through the heart of Italy, where every turn is a new treasure and every moment is filled with beauty and culture. You start your adventure in Rome, the eternal city. Next, you venture into the rolling hills of Tuscany, where the air is perfumed with the scent of vineyards and olive grove. The journey continues to Venice, the floating city of canals and gondolas, after Five Earth and Milan. But your Italian adventure doesn't end on land. It's about to get even more extraordinary. A magical journey through Italy, topped off with a house music festival on Costa Cruise. Dance under the stars, relax in style, and discover exclusive performances on deck, all while sailing to some of the most beautiful destinations. There are 3 packages to choose from. Sailing dates are from September 24th through the 28th, 2025. Book yours now at festivaloncruise.com.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to Heidi's house. I am your host, Queen Bee Heidi B. Today we have featured guest DJ Czezre Adams. He is an artist, music producer, and very long time experienced DJ. I am very grateful to be able to collaborate with him, and I'm also very, very honored to call him my friend. And I so much look forward this interview with him and to share to you audience about his house music journey. So are you ready? Then let's go. So here he is, DJ Czezre. Welcome to Heidi's house. It's so great that you are joining in. How are you today?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. It's very good to see you after a while.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. So you're gonna be now a special featured guest in Heidi's House, episode 9. And I'm super psyched about this interview. I mean, we have been colleagues for many years already. We have been friends and known each other for many years. But there are always some certain things that you can learn, and I'm sure that this again opens up something new also for me to learn, and especially then also for our audience to find out about you and your house music journey, so to say. Again, as you are a featured guest, I'm gonna just continue and start the interview with our first question, which is always the same to our guests. And that goes, tell us something about who is DJ Czezre.
Who is DJ Czezre? It's been a long journey creating DJ Czezre from the ground up, especially in my early beginnings as a DJ, which goes back to 1979.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm an old timer. I got into the DJing part of my journey, 1979. A middle school friend of mine, Saeed Muhammad, I actually got connected with him via my DJ journey. My interest actually started with him. And he connected me to a gentleman by the name of Keith Shepard, who was a very, very good DJ within the city of Newark, because I'm originally from Newark, New Jersey. And then through Keith Shepard, I met my mentor, Paul Scott. And the two of them kind of mentored me through the business of blending and mixing, and actually learning how to be a good song selector through the process of DJing. So my journey kind of started there. And then with most DJs, especially of that era, we all started in our neighborhoods, working through the neighborhoods, through block parties and lounges and things like that, doing weddings, et cetera, et cetera. And then once I moved from there, I actually started doing a few guest spots at clubs. My guest spots started actually at Club Zanzibar through a gentleman by the name of Andrew Hogan, a good buddy of mine. And then I started doing the remixes for Zanzibar. So all of the people that was dancing in Zanzibar between 85 and 87, those remixes were mine. They didn't know that.
Wow. So people, we have somebody really experienced person here.
Yeah, so he would I would do the remixes for him, and he would play with him and Larry Patterson, who was the resident down there at the time. From there, I ended up at New Experience, which later became Club Sensations. The resident DJ there was Mark Thompson, who actually expanded my DJ ability. And I actually filled in for him for about 2 years of the residency there. And I just continued on from there, just playing, continuous playing the circuit, getting into the production aspect, which Paul Scott helped me really get into the production and learning what it is to make music via the production. I am an instrumental major. I do play instruments. I do read music. So I do play trumpet, bass, other things like that. I am a graduate of Arts High School of Music and Performing Arts, like Sarah Vaughan and Melba Moore and Michael B. Jordan. They all went there also. So, so I do play instruments. I am an instrumental major. I'm not just a DJ producer. So I do read music as well. I still, do most of my DJing still to this day. I've DJed outside of the country several times in Canada, in Germany, in places like that, South Africa once. So I still get around. I still have fun.
Amazing things. And you have been around for such a long time, and your transition there, between the DJing, music production, and knowing, which I knew, that you are actually formally educated in the music, and you are also instrumentalist and everything. It is beautifully. I can hear it in your productions, and it's very obvious when, for instance, I've been collaborating with you. But it's also lovely and long journey. And I love the fact that you mentioned, when you talked about the DJing, since you used the artist name DJ Czezre also in your releases and everything. So the thing is that you mentioned about selection of tracks in DJ. Very, very, very important thing, and something that I think is really appreciated by the DJs who come so-called from the old school. That is one of the key things that you actually need to master.
Yeah, well, coming up from the turntable era, and for individuals who were not in clubs and you were just playing for the block or playing in a basement party or playing in the boys club, all you had was 2 turntables and your crates of records. So it was important for you as a DJ, as a mixologist, to be a very good song selector.
Yeah.
You didn't have, we didn't have the bells and the whistles and the technology that you have today, where you can kind of really perform with what you have, with the gear. Then your performance was those 2 turntables, that mixer, and your crate of records, and you had to make them people move. Yeah. So you had to master the art of being a good song selector. You didn't have a choice. There was no getting around being able to blend your music together and being able to select the right music to maintain the crowd on the dance floor. And I think a lot of things that people get into the debate with turntables and sync buttons today, technology is technology, It's great that people know how to play without the technology. You can use it if you want to, but you can have all the bells and whistles in the world. It's not going to teach you how to make that crowd move.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't matter, because when you're put in front of that crowd and you have your playlist and you're going to be judged on how you made that crowd move during that 1 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour set, wherever you're playing. Not that easy to do. Not that easy to do. And, I remember, one of the lessons that I got from Mark Thompson from Club Sensations, he always told me, if it's hot, you play it. That's it. If it's hot, you play.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Very, very essential thing, and something for DJs, aspiring DJs especially, to keep in mind, that what you just said about the whole thing, what is the core there, to build that story by the selection of the songs that invites the people to dance and enjoy and
Absolutely.
kind of share that feeling. All right. There's so much that we could discuss during this podcast, but I'm gonna now go again a little bit back. What would you say, Czezre, what was it that originally got you to house music? Why house music?
Well, the transition was relatively easy because I grew up in a jazz household with my parents. Growing up in that big band era of Earth, Wind and Fire and War, Kool and the Gang, BT Express. The music was starting to transition from that to disco to the house music. And that's kind of all I knew. Coming from a musical background, it's kind of all I knew. Getting into house music was relatively easy because, the sound of the music, the way it made you move, the way it made you feel. And when you heard certain DJs play the music, it's almost like they told stories with the music. A lot of DJs were very, very good storytellers via how they played the music. And for me, I always wanted to be one of those DJs. For anybody who, would frequent, the legendary Paradise Garage in New York, Larry Levan would completely tell a story for hours with how he played, the music. And, Larry Levan is credited to being one of the greatest song selectors ever. Through him and Frankie Knuckles and people like that, they're very good song selectors. So the feeling of what the music meant and how it made me feel is what made me gravitate to the house music. And ever since then, I've never left. It's been part of, my life, like I said, transitioning from the disco era to the house, to Chicago house, etc. It's just been part of my DNA for decades. So I enjoy it, and I'm going to continue. I'll probably, I always tell people I'm going to be buried with my hard drive. So I'm going to take the music with me. I'm going to take the music with me, even to the afterlife is going with me. So
I believe that.
we gonna party in heaven. They just don't know it yet.
You were saying about that house music being a feeling. When people are saying, it's almost like a cliche, but it truly is that. It is a feeling. It's all about that feeling, and
Exactly.
that's what resonates with us.
Absolutely.
Beautiful, beautiful introduction to what got you to the house music. Thank you for sharing that. Now I'm gonna ask, well, you kind of revealed already something since you were talking about the influences, the big band and disco era and so on. But now if you would have to name few artists that have inspired you the most, who would they be?
Well, from a production standpoint, I mean, I think You know, you talk about someone like Quincy Jones. I think Quincy Jones inspired a generation, not just me, but if you was to talk to many DJs and producers to this day, the first name that probably would hit them would be Quincy Jones. He was one of my biggest inspiration because he's a trumpet player himself. Um, so, so he was one of the ones who I kind of gravitated to the most. And then there were other people like, you know, Herbie Hancock, Stanley Clark, you know, people like that I kind of gravitated to and motivated me the most, and whose productions I kind of mimicked, especially putting the music together from a production standpoint. They were the ones who I really gravitated to the most. Even Nile Rodgers from Chic, who's another very good producer. Rick James, another good producer. So I kind of followed all of them, just, you know, listening to their music, and especially how they put the music together, really inspired me the most. But the person that really touched me the most from a production standpoint was, you know, would always be my mentor, Paul Scott, because I had the privilege of being in the studio with him. A lot of times just watching him make music, watching him, you know, make songs like I Shall Not Be Moved by, you know, that he made for Kenny Bobby, amongst other songs, and watching him just go through the process of putting this song together. So he's still, outside of them, is still my biggest inspiration for this.
That's beautiful, and I'm so happy for you that you have had that kind of opportunity to follow and observe his works.
Absolutely.
It is that kind of like a mentoring kind of situation, and you learn such many things there, and it gives for fellow artists, fellow music producers so much when you get that very rare chance actually to be working with such a high level of producer and artist.
Absolutely.
So that is a great blessing for you, and everybody that then gets to work with you is blessed. You know, it comes through in your works as well. I have to say that always been very huge pleasure for me to work with you. We communicate very well, you know, when it comes to the musical things, and like when you pay attention. So you have been surprising me sometimes when you say that, you know, this sounds like Heidi, that this track would, you know, work with her, and this kind of thing. So it's very refreshing and nice and lovely, and it tells about the level of professionalism that you have in your works and productions. So
I think from a production standpoint, because for me, I never know what artists or artists I'm going to work with during the course of a year when I set out to make my music. You know, me and Vanessa Jackson, we've been friends for 10 years, at least. And I always make a song for her once a year. I'm always going to make a song once a year for her. And, you know, I'll put something together and then I'll say, oh, I think I got something for her. So sometimes when I'm into the production process, I'll be like, oh, wow, I think this will fit. You know, I think this will fit Heidi. Then I'll be like, oh, I think I got one for you, and I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
I think over time with certain producers, especially if you worked with certain artists, you kind of know their flow, their style. Yeah. And it's important, I think, as you build a relationship with an artist, that you do know their vibe, their feel. If you're going to venture out to a new artist, then it's important that you do research and go check track source and beatport of the music that they've performed on, so you can get a feel of what, what they do and what they like. So this way, when you open up the door and say, hey, I want to send you, I want to send you a couple of samples, do you mind? And then that's how you guys connect and build that relationship. And that's kind of how I do it.
Very good advice and very good point again. So pay attention, producers, the aspiring ones again, especially do your research. Then it's really more likely that you can, build those connections and nice collaborations when you do the background research. Absolutely very important. So thanks for that gem that you shared. Always a pleasure to share these points with you anyway, so I've been very grateful for that. Now let's continue to our next questions. I have been asking the same from all of my guests, and that has been a little bit trickier maybe since there's so much great music around. But what would you say, Czezre? What would be your top 3, or it can be 4, house tracks of all time?
Wow. I would definitely have to say French Kiss by Lil Louis.
Yeah, amazing.
Excuse me. I would say Whistle Song, Frankie Knuckles.
Yeah.
Because those songs are timeless and they just 1,000 years from now you can play them.
Yeah.
Man, I got so many.
I know, that's why it's a tricky one. You can elaborate maybe 4 or 5. I remember one of my interviews wanted to share 5.
It's also, Time Warp, Eddie Grant, another timeless one that you can play. Wow, it's so many. I'll stop at those 3. Like those 3 are that you can play no matter what in any era. True. You can play those 3 and it'll still resonate. And then you still have some people who say Marshall Jefferson, Move Your Body, which is another good timeless one that resonates. But yeah, those are my top 3 right there. That play those, absolutely. It's gonna
fantastic go. Top 3, and I like the explanation why that they are really like the timeless quality of those tracks, and it's truly that you can play them anytime, and it anytime works beautifully.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, absolutely. Great selection. So people, if you are not familiar with those, well, these are very, very classic house tracks, but if you are not familiar, so check them out and you will definitely know what we are talking about.
Yeah.
Yes. Then let's continue to the next one, and Czezre, I'm sorry, but it's gonna get more trickier now.
Okay.
So the thing is that now I would like you to think of your own productions so far.
Okay.
And maybe share with us, is there a particular track that somehow is more special or some way stands out from all the other tracks, and maybe why?
Actually, there's 3 that stands out the most to me. My first release I did with Lee Wilson, Your Eyes. I would say Vaulted Recipe with Vanessa Jackson. and the one you and I did together, Choose Your Love. The reason why those three stand out is because those three specific productions challenged me the most. From a vocalist standpoint, you know, I worked with Lee Wilson. That was my first time working with him.
Yeah.
And trying to really capture his voice and kind of picture what he was singing and what he was doing, made that track kind of stand out. Vaulted Recipe is another one because, you know, Vanessa Jackson, her career and her voice has really gone this way over the past 5 years. So her voice now challenges you from a production standpoint, because you don't know what Vanessa you're going to get. You know, she's very diverse in a sense where she's not just, she's from South Africa, but she doesn't sing Afro. She can sing soulful house, deep house, disco. She'll do it all. And that's the challenge, because you don't know what Vanessa you're going to get. You can get multiple styles out of her in this one song. So that's why it's always a challenge with her. And you definitely want to make your production as strong as possible for her. Choose to Love was something that I had to work with via you, because your voice, unlike some other artists, you use a lot of 3-part harmony in your
I'm a harmony girl.
Yeah. So you use a lot of harmony. So being able to move the instruments around to fit where that harmony is always a good challenge, but to find that space in your voice is always also a good thing too. So those are my three that stand out for me from a production standpoint.
Amazing three, and thank you for choosing Choose the Love as one of the tracks. And I have to say that if the same question would be asked from me, I would also choose the Love.
Yeah.
You know, for various reasons. But since we are now interviewing you, so I guess somebody has to ask that later from me in another session or something. But let's continue for next question. Now, if you think about your long music journey and the career of music producer, DJ, artist, what would you say? What are some of the highlights of that journey?
Some of my highlights were definitely my first guest spot at Club Zanzibar when I played with DJ Camacho, R.I.P. DJ Camacho, another DJ who was really blossoming at the time. So that was a good highlight for me there. My 2-year residency at Club Sensations was a highlight for me. The first time I played in Canada was a highlight for me, playing in Canada, which was the first time I'd actually left the States, left America to go. So anytime, for any DJ, anytime you leave America and you play abroad, it's always a highlight, because it's a different experience with the crowd. And if you're not used to that energy, and they bring a lot of energy, it is way different, unlike anything you've ever seen. First time I had actually been nervous to DJ in a long time. was my first time outside of America. So that was definitely my highlight in Canada.
All right.
Playing in front of playing in front of the crowd and being nervous because it was one of the biggest crowds I played for, and it had to be about 700 people out there, and they were like right there, like
Yeah.
they were, they were like, you know, when I walked out, the other person was playing, and they announced me, and as I'm coming out, they were like, you know, and the crowd went back that way, and it was like, you know, right there. And they were appreciative, they were receptive of me. They didn't know who I was, which is very important. And I'll say this for anybody that plays abroad. Your first song will dictate your entire performance. So make sure that first song is, you come right out the gate on. So don't hold back. Let that first song be explosive. Right? You want to hit them just like that. So
hit them hard from the first beat.
So that's definitely my highlights right there for sure.
Wonderful. Then I have one or two more questions.
Okay.
Brief questions, so to say, but if you would summarize shortly, what would you say that what is your contribution to the house music community, or your message? What do you want to play with your music and your productions?
Well, my contribution, you know, and I won't mention any names, but there's a lot of DJs in the early to mid '80s who careers I did help, and people that were able to groom themselves, you know, in my basement and in the confines of, you know, my home back then, before I even got into the production aspect, when it was just DJing and learning how to do remixes and things like that. There's a lot of DJs, some of which people know now, that worked alongside me. And I've always been I've always had an open door policy with giving out information to help another DJ, another producer. I've never been one to not give you the information because it's not mine to keep. You know, it's not my information to keep, and just like it was given to me, it's my job to give it to others. So I've always had an enjoyment of helping teach someone the craft, like I said, of DJing, or whether it's productions, reading music, how to mix and master a track, whatever I can do. I've always been, or I try to be as helpful as possible with that. So yeah, that's always been my contribution.
Yeah, it's a collaboration, support, helping each other out and working together. And that's why it has been always so pleasure also personally to work with you, because I truly feel that. Now we have time for our last questions, and then we go to just some kind of details where people can find you here in social media. But the last question is, what are your current or near future projects in house music? Can you reveal anything?
I have a lot. I have a lot. Well, one, our album that we're working on. We have an album that we're working on for Brian Way. I just completed 3 tracks for Eric Red for his up and coming album. He's actually heading back overseas, and his past 2 albums have been up for Grammy consideration, and I've done a song for both of those albums. So I have 3 tracks that I've done for him. I just had a release with Tommy Cotton on Track Source, and she's working on a new one right now. I have a song that I prepared for Vanessa Jackson, which will be coming up as she frees her time to do that. I have a track that I'm presenting to Rona Ray, which is going to be coming along this year. I have another one that's going to be released with Massman in Japan, which is going to be released within the next 2 months. I have another one that I'm releasing with Lee Wilson, which which I'm going to be doing that as well. And I've sent 2 tracks to Miranda Nicole. I'm just waiting for her feedback. And that's what I got going on for the rest of this year so far. So
plus things for the high vibe as well, what we are working on.
So between the album we have, You and I with Brian Wade, and the high vibe, it's my plate is pretty full. But I this year so far is definitely the busiest year so far that I've had over the past couple of years with productions. And then I don't know who's gonna hit me or say, hey, I need you to remix this, I need you to do that. So I don't even know who's going to do that. You can catch all of my music via TrackSource, Beatport, Juno, iTunes, Amazon Music. It's all there. Or you can just listen to it on Spotify and Pandora. It's all out there for the listening public. I hope that I continue to make good music for everyone to listen to and to vibe to. I appreciate those individuals that have continued to support us, and I will continue to do my best, make the best music, and I hope to see you guys somewhere in America at some outdoor event or some club or lounge or whatever later on in the year. But you'll see me.
Yes. So if somebody wants to find you in social media, could you briefly share where they can find you?
They can catch me on my DJ Czezre /producer fan page. You can always find me directly on Facebook, Czezre Adams, or you can also find me on Instagram. Same thing, Czezre Adams. You'll find me on Instagram. And I kind of post all of my information about any events, which will be on my fan page, any place that I'm playing, any new music that's coming out. I kind of keep all of that stuff going via, like I said, Instagram and Facebook. So I kind of keep up with that. So anybody who wants to follow me or keep up with it, just check me at Czezre Adams on Facebook or Instagram, and you will definitely find me.
Thank you so much for this interview. Our time is up, and we are eager to continue to a mini mix. But yes, people, check those social media sites out. Check his tracks on all of those digital music stores. Again, sending much love and blessings to you.
Always.
And thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care.
You too.